Uh, I'm going to go ahead at this time and call the House Transportation Committee to order. And, we have a number of dignitaries in the room. First of all, I want to introduce Christine Smith. I was going to say Christine Adams. Christine, would you? She's the president of the County Treasurers Association. And of course, everybody needs to also know she's our tax chair's wife. Adam Smith. So make sure you treat her with a tender, loving care if you have anything before the tax committee. I think I've already been told I've been on the naughty list because I made her stick out. So anyway, today the county treasurers are in Topeka for their annual meeting, and they have a bill before our committee, and it's HB 2148. So at this time, I'll open that hearing. To begin the hearing, we'll have an overview by Chris Wagner, the reviser of statutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, committee. House Bill 2148 would change various fees relating to the registration and titling of vehicles. It changes where certain fees and portions of fees are deposited, and eliminates the vehicle modernization surcharge. Fee increases and decreases to registration and title fees occur throughout the bill. Many of the fees are reduced anywhere from 50 cents to $5. There are many categories that it would affect, some of which being personalized license plate fees, original certificates of title, name change in title, on highway vehicle titles, license plate transfers, and certain others. As I said, it could just affect portions of those fees. Jill's going to give a briefing after mine to kind of give a more extensive list and present her extensive list of every fee that's kind of touched by in this bill. The reason for many of the fee reductions corresponds with certain new fees and the disposition process for those fees. Under current law, license fees and registration fees collected by the county treasurers, division of vehicles, and contractors. Those entities are required to deposit 75 cents for each license application, 75 cents for each license plate transfer, and $2 of each certificate of title application to special funds that help pay for the administrative costs associated with providing those services. What the bill would do is eliminate that required collection of those small fees, and instead, in Section 8, create more of a uniform service fee of $10, which is an increase from its current service fee of $5. That portion of money would be deposited into that special fund to pay for administration costs. Going back to Section 7, which is on page 26, if anyone wants to follow along on the bill, that is also where the vehicle modernization surcharge of $4 would be eliminated. KSA 75-5160, which created that surcharge, is also repealed as part of the bill. As I said, Section 8 creates that new uniform service fee of $10, which is an increase from $5. That's for any vehicle title applications, registrations, and renewals. Section 8 also removes the ability of county treasurers to charge additional fees on those registration renewals for administrative costs. Finally, Section 13 of the bill would provide a fee increase from $1 to $10 for salvage vehicle permits to operate on highways. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions for the reviser? Representative Goddard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Maybe this isn't the time, but I'd like to ask this question. Every time someone goes in to renew a registration on a vehicle, there's an increase of $5 over the current fee. It goes from $5 to $10, if I understand this chart correctly. Most people, in my estimation, don't incur a fee because on a lot of these other things because it doesn't apply to them. So the root of my question is this an increase on the individual when they renew a registration based on their lack of need for these other services?
Mr. Wagner?
Yes, thank you, sure. I might leave that for one of the other conferees. If your question is there a fee increase on registration or renewals? Yes, that there is a service fee increase that's currently $5. It's being increased to $10. And that's any applicant for vehicle title, registration, or renewal.
So, as an example, let's say a person doesn't get a personalized plate, so there's no fee. They don't need an original certificate of title, so they don't pay the $8 for that under this new plan. I guess what I'm getting at is this going to be an overall increase for the average person going in to register their vehicle?
Yeah, I think one of the other conferees might be able to answer that better. I think as you're kind of getting to it, it depends on what service you require as to whether an increase or decrease could happen.
Thank you very much. I'll wait. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Other questions? All right, thank you very much, Chris. At this time, Jill Shelley has prepared a document, and I think all of you have it at your desks that shows what the changes are based upon various services provided by the treasurers. Jill, did you want to add anything to that?
Well, Mr. Chairman, that pretty much covers it. This is our attempt to boil the 44 pages down into 2.5.
We appreciate that, you know. And at this time, before we get too bogged down, I want to do a point of personal privilege. We have some other dignitaries in the room, and one of them are individuals from my home county that have driven 350 miles to get here today. And we have my classmate, Donna Walker, and Starla Young. Can you guys, thanks for coming to the committee today. All right, the next thing, I want to direct everybody's attention to the fiscal note. We're going to have a conferee later on that talks about one of the effects of this bill as it was written. It does away with the modernization fee. So when you look at the fiscal note, you know, we show a $6 million loss in 2024, and it refers to, I believe, $12 million loss there afterwards. That's primarily due to the removal of that modernization fee, and it primarily affects roads and highways in the state of Kansas. So please make sure you read the fiscal note and understand what its impact is on our highway system. So with that, we're going to start out with our proponents on this bill. The first proponent is Leanne Phelps with the Division of Vehicles. Welcome to the committee, Leanne. And by the way, thanks for all of your service this year. I know you've been an invaluable resource to me, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to testify today, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Leanne Phelps. I'm the Vehicle Services Manager for the Kansas Division of Vehicles. I'm here today to testify as a proponent on House Bill 2148, which proposes to change registration fees and add a service fee to title and registration transactions for motor vehicle transactions in the state. The bill is designed to offer better funding for the county motor vehicle offices. It would also remove the $4 modernization fee from all registration transactions. The Division of Vehicles does recognize that the support that we've been able to give to county motor vehicle offices has changed over the years. We used to provide them equipment, printers, toner even, and other supplies, and it has just changed over the years as our budget's been impacted. We've been able to less support counties and their operations. So we want to offer our support on this bill because I know that they are in need of some additional funding to run their operations. We also value our partnership with the county motor vehicle offices. They provide an invaluable service to the state, collecting fees and taxes for all operations in the state. And so we therefore just simply want to support legislation that will help them appropriately fund their operation. We do support the removal of the modernization fee, or at least at a minimum, maybe renaming it.
Any questions for Ms. Phelps? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much, Leanne. Next on the agenda is Larry Mall with the Shawnee County Office of County Treasurer. Welcome to the committee, Larry.
Okay, let me start again. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee members. I appreciate the opportunity to testify in support of House Bill 2148. And just as a starter, a lot of what we're going to say today sounds very familiar if you were here last year, because this is the exact same bill that we proposed last year that passed this committee and passed the House 114-6. Exact same bill. The last time the motor vehicle fee structure was changed was in 2013. In Shawnee County, between 2014 and 2021, we consistently received about $1.5 million in revenues from those fees. In 2022, we received $39,000 less revenue from those fees than we had received in 2014. On the other side, the expenses were constantly going up between 2014 and 2022. And comparing 2014 to 2022, our expenses had gone up more than $229,000. I fully expect in 2023 that our expenses will exceed the revenues that we receive from the current fee structure. Now, wages account for about 90% of our expenses. In 2014, our starting wage in Shawnee County for motor vehicle clerks was $9.40. That had increased to $11.76 in 2021. And then last year, with all the pressure with inflation and the lack of workers, we increased our starting wage to $13.67. Now, that was a significant increase for Shawnee County, but it still doesn't compete with McDonald's, who is offering $15 an hour, or Home Depot and Target that will offer $20 an hour. So consequently, we're finding it almost impossible to attract candidates for job openings or to retain our existing employees. In summary, I think that the fee structure as it was designed in 2013 no longer supports our organization. House Bill 2148 will provide additional funding for our expenses. And as you will hear from my fellow treasurers that are going to testify later, it also will simplify a very complicated fee structure and reduce the cost to the taxpayer by an average of $2.36. And to answer this gentleman's question, overall, the taxpayer will pay less, $2.36, at the same time we're funding the motor vehicle operation. I call that a trifecta. We are receiving additional funds to support our operation and provide service to the taxpayer. At the same time, we're charging the taxpayer less, and we're simplifying the fee structure so that everyone can understand what's going on. So with that in mind, I ask you to support House Bill 2148, and I'll stand for any questions you might have.
Representative Proctor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your testimony. I'm not sure if you're the guy to ask this question to or not, but you're the first county treasurer up here. Across the state, the fiscal note said it's going to reduce revenues by something like $6 million. How much is it going to increase revenues for the counties total?
That will depend on the county. We have 105 counties and we're all slightly different. It's a very complicated formula. In Shawnee County, I would expect to receive about $250,000 more in annual revenue. And if you remember what I just said, that almost brings me back to where I was in 2013. So it's not a windfall, but at least it covers my expenses going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Hobson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your testimony today. With respect to the wages, I mean, where would you like to see the wages to be at in order to retain and attract workers for your?
Well, my first thought is at least $15 an hour, but every time I drive through McDonald's and realize that they're trying to hire and they can't attract people at 15, I'm not sure that's enough. We can make it work at $14 or $15 an hour. It's not ideal, but we've done it for years and we'll continue to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Other questions? All right, Mr. Mull, I have to ask this question because the way you phrased it. How do you charge the taxpayer $2.36 or whatever that number was less, and then wind up getting $225,000 more for your agency?
Because this bill eliminates the $4 modernization fee, which never went to the counties, always went to the state. So when you eliminate that and you add all of our other fees that we've eliminated together, and then you put back the flat fee of $10, then the net out is a savings to the customer or taxpayer of $2.36.
And that $4, how much of that 226 that you talked about earlier is that for? What would $4 amount to for Shawnee County? Do you know?
Well, that's a good question. It's charged on every transaction that we perform. And we do about 30,000 titles and about 200,000 renewals. So figure 230,000 times 4, and you'll come up with a pretty good number there for just Shawnee County. That's a fee that's charged regardless, whether you're renewing or whether you're registering a new vehicle.
Okay. All right. Representative Proctor.
Thank you for indulging me for a second time, Mr. Chair. This section here that increases fees, how much of that 225,000 that you're going to make is coming out of that? Is it all coming out of that?
Say that again.
So there's this block of fees that you're increasing. There's a lot of reductions here, which I love, but there's a few increases. What percentage of that 250,000 or 225,000 that you expect in increased revenues is coming from that? All of it?
Would be all of it. To kind of simplify it, those fees are split between the state of Kansas and the treasurers. Of the fees that we collect today, 85% of those fees go to the state of Kansas. We're not touching that at all, other than the $4 modernization fee. That 15% that we're collecting today essentially goes away and is replaced by a $10 flat fee.
Then that that number, I think you said like $2 and something less that the citizens are getting charged. It really depends on what they're doing at your office. I mean, it's not they may be paying more depending on what they show up at your office to do.
That's a possibility, yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we were all clear on that. So,
because there's a lot of different things that they will do at our office, but it kind of all goes together. We're there, every day, whether they walk in to do a renewal or whether they walk in to do a title or they just want a placard. We are still there. We're still paying the same wage.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Ballard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We understand just from you how much you might be making, but what impact would it have on the treasurer's offices in all 105 counties if this bill does not proceed forward?
Well, I think other offices in the state that pay much more on their wages than we do, they're already under the gun and they're being subsidized by their county taxes. There's a lot of discussion about how to lower county taxes. Well, you're subsidizing your motor vehicle operation because you've underfunded it through your fees. In Shawnee County, we're able to kind of separate it out. And because we have such low wages, we've been able to cover our fees. However, when I talk about our fees, I'm not including a lot of benefits I get from the county. They provide me HR, legal services, IT services. I do not give them money for that. That's not included in those expenses that I quoted. It's kind of buried in the forest, if you will.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Ma.
Thank you.
The next conferee is Joe Grisolano with Crawford County Treasurer. Welcome to the committee, Joe. Did I butcher it too bad, Joe?
No, you said it very well. Thank you very much, Representative Francis. Good afternoon, Chairman Francis and committee members. I'm Joe Grisolano. I'm the Crawford County Treasurer, and I'm here today to speak in support of House Bill 2148 on behalf of the Kansas County Treasurers Association. I'm real proud that the framework of this legislation actually originated from a small group of legislators, county treasurers, and Department of Revenue people who met. Representative Goddard was part of that group. Representative Francis was part of that group. We met a few years ago. It's been a while since we met, but this group met to develop an understanding of county motor vehicle operations and to deal with stagnant revenues and the rising cost of performing the motor vehicle work for Kansans. The group determined that we needed to simplify the complex fee structure and make it more transparent for all Kansans. Under current law, the fee structure is complicated. It's hard for us to explain to a taxpayer when they come into the office, and it's not transparent because a lot of the fees, if you've looked at that fee chart, and Shiloh has more information that she'll provide to you, the county treasurer gets a quarter of this and 75 cents of this and $1.50 of this. Well, it gets rid of all those hidden fees, and now we'll just get one $10 fee. It'll say right on it, county fee $10. So when the customer asks me, what do you guys, get paid to do this transaction? We can show them right on the receipt. We get to keep $10. That pays for all of our supplies, all of our computer equipment, all of our labor, all of the costs to run the motor vehicle operation. So it's really transparent and easy for the taxpayer to understand. Excuse me. Additionally, this bill does eliminate the $4 DMV modernization fee that has been collected for the Kansas Department of Transportation since 2013. The legislation also eliminates all satellite office and facility fees some counties charge, so there will be no fee differences from county to county. To give you an example, in my county, our courthouse is in Girard. Girard is in the center of the county. It's a town of about 2,300 people. Half of our county's population base is in the town of Pittsburgh, which is over in the corner. We have a judicial center there, a very nice facility. I have an office, a satellite office in that judicial center. I charge an extra $2 fee that the county gets to keep to help fund the operation of, because we do have an added cost to have that. When you've got employees that are scattered between more than one office, it's going to cost you more money, and phone lines and those kinds of things. It costs us more money. So if this bill would pass, that $2 fee would go away. So when the customer receives their, Representative Goddard, you were asking about a renewal notice. When they receive their renewal notice and has the amount on there, if they take that renewal notice and walk into my Pittsburgh office, then they're going to pay another $2 fee that they don't know about. It upsets them, as you can imagine. So if this bill passes with the $10 flat fee, nobody will charge any additional fees. Same way with facility fees that a lot of counties charge now. That was the change in the legislation in 2013 that Larry was talking about. It allowed counties to add a facility fee for people that walk in the door. They pay an additional fee because it takes more labor to do that rather than handle mail. So I don't charge a facility fee in the courthouse, but a lot of counties do. This would do away with that so that the fees would be identical all across the state. This is something that county treasurers all across the state really wanted. They didn't like the fact that fees would be different from county to county. So this takes care of all of that. And we think that that's a real good piece of the legislation, that they would see no fee differences. They would also see the amount the county keeps right on their receipt. It would be broken out separately, and they would see that. There wouldn't be any other fees the county gets to keep. Since the late 1930s, county treasurers have worked as agents of the state to provide vehicle title and registration services for all Kansans, which is a very valuable service. The fees the county retains for these services should cover all the costs for providing them. Due to stagnant revenues and rising costs, the fees no longer cover all of the cost. And that's in virtually every county in Kansas. The motor vehicle operation is receiving some type of ad valorem tax support to fund part of the operation. And it's hard to say how much that would be in each county because of the way counties budget from county to county. An example of that in my county, for instance, I don't have to pay employee benefits out of my budget. The county has a separate employee benefit tax revenue, and my motor vehicle employees, their employee benefits are paid out of that employee benefit fund. Many years ago, the county, before I was county treasurer, the county treasurer reimbursed the cost of those employee benefits out of the motor vehicle fund to the county. We could no longer do that. I can't even pay all of my employees out of the fees that I keep. I have 6 motor vehicle employees that work full time on motor vehicle work. I have to pay one of those employees out of my general fund budget, and the other 5 I can pay out of the motor vehicle operating fund. So if House Bill 2148 becomes law, it would greatly decrease or totally eliminate ad valorem property tax support to fund the motor vehicle operation, which we think is very important. Again, there may be a few counties that might have to provide a little bit of support depending on how their budget works, but in a lot of counties, it would completely eliminate that ad valorem tax support. County treasurers overwhelmingly support this flat, simplified, and transparent fees concept. In conclusion, I ask for your support for House Bill 2148. The flat fee bill is easy to explain. It contains no hidden fees and would provide simple, transparent revenue to support county motor vehicle operations. I want to thank you for your consideration and for allowing me to speak today in support of House Bill 2148. I would be happy to answer questions at the appropriate time.
Does anybody have any questions? Representative Goddard.
Joe, it's good to see you again.
It's good to see you, Representative Goddard.
You know, since we did this years ago, it just proves nothing ever dies in Topeka.
Good.
I appreciate all the things that have been done, and please, everybody, don't take my comments earlier as being against it. I just wanted to clarify things. That's because people are going to ask the question.
You're exactly right, Representative Goddard. And I will say on your question about when they come in for a renewal, if I've got my information, if I'm remembering right, an actual renewal, the renewal fee going to the flat $10 fee, removing the $4, it would be a 25-cent increase to the customer for that renewal. However, if they're renewing their vehicle, as the vehicle gets older, the property tax depreciates. So they would be paying less property tax the next year if they're just doing a renewal. So the actual fee would go up by a quarter, but their property tax would go down. So the net result to the customer on what they're writing their check for would be less the next year.
We just brought up another thorn that sticks in people's sides, and that's the property tax on vehicles. And I think a lot of people confuse the property tax on vehicles as a part of the fees or taxes that are paid for getting a license plate.
Right.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Other questions? Oh, Representative Collins, I'm sorry.
I figured I would get a question from Representative Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I do want to mention that I had Joe's dad as a teacher in high school, and we just called him Mr. Grizz. But anyway, I was just, well, the example you gave of, the Pittsburgh office and the Girard Courthouse, and I've used both of them. Used to work right across the street from the Pittsburgh office, but and I went there, and it is very convenient. But just wondering how much business you probably do more in the Pittsburgh branch than you do in the courthouse, right?
Actually, that's a great question, Representative Collins. And I could say prior to COVID, we did 40% of our business was done in the Pittsburgh office. And that's counting that all mail goes to Girard. So that's all walk-in traffic. So you are correct. We were doing more business in the Pittsburgh office as far as walk-in traffic. Since COVID, the Judicial Center was shut down for quite a long time. The courthouse wasn't shut down very long in Girard, but it hasn't come back quite. We're not doing quite as much business as we used to. The fees that we received, I did increase that fee from $1 to $2 right before COVID hit. And with that $2 fee last year, we received about 15,000 more in revenue than we did the year before in additional revenue to operate to run the motor vehicle operation. But my expenses were up more than what that $15,000 revenue increase was.
Well, I was just wondering because this bill, if passed, I've had people make a comment about having to pay more to in Pittsburgh, but if you're there anyway, it's worth it.
It is, but that would do away with that. It would make me very happy because this is off the subject, but we do driver's license renewals in our Girard office, and we charge an extra $5 to do a driver's license. It's the fee we get to do a driver's license. That's all we get to do a driver's license in our office, and nobody has ever complained to pay that extra $5 to do their driver's license renewal. But I have people who have complained about the extra $1 when it was in Pittsburgh, and now $2. So that's a great point.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Minix.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm trying to understand this. So you're telling me that a county treasurer, while an individual's in paying their vehicle taxes, is also doing a function of state government by registering vehicles and selling state created tags, personalized or otherwise, of any kind. And at the same time, state governments hold local units of government under a tax lid or a revenue neutral situation. And since 2013, let's say inflation's gone up 15, 20%. I know it has in my household.
Yes.
But
the county treasurer works as an agent of the state. The titling and registration of vehicles is a state function. That state function in the statutes in 1937 was handed down to the county treasurer to perform that duty as an agent of the state. So yes.
And any money that the county is short trying to do that function is made up by local taxpayer dollars. So it's hard to come up with a net number of what the change is if one of your constituents goes in on a particular license deal. It makes sense that they pay a higher user fee, but in the same check, they might pay a little bit less on their vehicle taxes, and that has to be netted out to find the exact financial difference.
Right. And they also might end up paying less on their real estate tax bill, because right now we are receiving funding from the property taxes to help offset our costs. And that's true in every county in the state.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay. Seeing none. Great job, Grizz.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is Shiloh Hager with County Treasurer of Riley County. Oh, wait, excuse me, it's Jay Hall. I'm sorry, Shiloh. Is Jay out there? Jay Hall with the Kansas Association of County.
Thank you, Representative Francis and members of the committee. Jay Hall, the General Counsel and Deputy Director for the Kansas Association of Counties. I will attempt to be brief. I want to focus. I focused on three things in my testimony, but I want to just touch on one of those things. I talked about taxpayer savings, which we've heard about already. And we also talked about simplicity, which I think the county treasurers have done an outstanding job addressing. I want to talk about the local efficiency because Representative Minix's previous question, I think, got at this particular point, which is that those revenues that do not come in from doing this function, this state function, have to be made up by law by the county. And so the local taxes have to absorb whatever is not generated in the vehicle registration fees. And so this $10 really goes to help offset some of those costs for those local taxpayers, because if those revenues are short, the local taxpayer has to pay that in either their personal property taxes or in their real estate property taxes, because you cannot, as the county, they are required to fund this function. They cannot not fund the function of vehicle registration. And so they must put in those dollars, whether that's $220,000 or $100,000 or $10,000. The county has to make up that difference. And so this bill really goes to give local efficiency by making up that gap that has grown and grown and grown since about 2013. It goes to make up that gap, which helps offset those costs at the local level. And so with that point being made, I will stand for questions at the appropriate time.
Do we have any questions from Mr. Hall? Representative Melton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure if you're the one that can answer this, but I just keep thinking, what will the impact be to the state highway department losing these funds? And why are we doing that?
I don't know about the exact impact to the state highway fund. I know that the fiscal note says about $6 million in this year and then about $12 million next year. I don't know what that means for the state highway fund overall. I would have to check with KDOT and see what they were to say on that.
Questions? And we may have another conferee later on that'll be able to address that question, Representative Melton. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Jay. Now, Shiloh, now it's your turn. We have Shiloh Hager, County Treasurer for Riley County. Welcome to the committee, ma'am.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank you for letting me speak on behalf of House Bill 2148. I was also on the original committee that came up with this legislation. When we met, one of the first things we decided as a group was that the current fee structure, because the bill's 44 pages long, is very complicated. And just to give you just a real quick rundown of all the fees that the county treasurers get to retain for doing some of the motor vehicle transactions, facility fees of $2.50 to $5, depending on your county. We get 75 cents of every registration, $2 of every title, $1.50 for a lien holder, 75 cents on a 60-day permit. We get $1 for a 1-day permit. We get $1 for a duplicate receipt, $3 for a repo, 50 cents for to replace your decal, and 75 cents for every plate, and then our $5 county service fee. That's very complicated. Some of those fees are hidden within the transaction. That's why when we came up with the plan that we came up with, we wanted it to be very simple and transparent to the customer. So that's where you see all of those various decreases. The title you will see on your receipt will be $8, not $10, where $2 goes to the county, $8 goes to the state. That was one of the things that we wanted to do. But our overall goal was to help find a way to fund the motor vehicle operations in the county. When we surveyed all of our counties that participated, over 25% for the state function. In Riley County, that equates, we're running out of deficit of about $425,000 in 2022. That was being covered by ad valorem tax dollars. Had this fee bill been in place, we would have looked at an increase of about $254,000. Now, no, that does not make Riley County whole, but it takes a big hit away from our ad valorem tax dollars with as small of an impact as we could come up with to the taxpayers. The $4 DMV fee, that got the elimination of that fee actually got amended into our bill last year. That's not something that the county treasurers have asked for. It was just amended into our bill because it was something that was in the governor's budget, is my understanding, and that's where that came from. We left it in our bill because it really does benefit our taxpayers if our motor vehicle customers, if that fee were to go away on most transactions, the overall, if we added up all of the transactions together, the net decrease is $2.36. Yes, some transactions, there'll be a little more, but the ones that hit our customers, our renewals and our titles, those are the majority of the transactions that we perform, and our citizens would see a decrease in those types of transactions. I think my colleagues have done a really good job of touching on all of the other things. I just wanted to reiterate some of how it would affect our county, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions by the committee? I think Ms. Hager can really answer some ones in deep. Thank you very much for this sheet right here. I guess I do want to kind of try to simplify. There's a lot of fees in here, and it can get kind of mind-numbing trying to sort them out. So the long and the short of it is, as I look at this is a standard transaction.
That's a title.
And you currently get 9. You're gonna get 10. But then because of the modernization fee, if it goes away, the net effect will be 6.
A decrease of
4 to make it 6. So a decrease of 3 off of what's happening right now. And then when you talk about that, you also perform the duty of collecting property taxes on vehicles. Almost all of those property taxes stay locally. I mean, you guys don't get them, but the cities get them. The school systems get them. Community colleges might get them in some communities.
Correct. It's based on an average mill levy for your particular county. So then that gets distributed to the various entities, your schools, your townships, etc.
And I should know this, but I know I sometimes get it confused. But does a portion of that come back to the state for the state's portion of the school and building fund?
It does.
Okay. All right. So that whole property tax amount, you guys don't get it. You got to divvy it up among everybody else.
The county just retains a portion of it.
Right. Their share or their percentage. Any other questions? Okay. Seeing none, thank you very much. Thanks for this testimony. All right. We have a number of other testimonies that are written. We have Shane Kroll, Miami County Administrator, Larry Townsend, Chairman of the Wallace County Board of Commissioners, Adam Raines, Douglas County Treasurer, Brandy Bailey, Sedgwick County Treasurer, Christine Smith, Wallace County Treasurer, Riley County Board of Commissioners, Thomas G. Franzen, Johnson County Treasurer, and David Dennis, Commissioner, Sedgwick County. Do we have any other conferees that would like to testify as a proponent? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to opponents. Do we have any opponents who would like to testify? I see no written opponent testimony. And then we have neutral testimony. We have one proponent, Michael White, with the Kansas Contractors Association. Welcome to the committee, Michael.
Thank you, Chairman Francis and members of the committee. I am Michael White. I'm the Executive Director of the Kansas Contractors Association. And before I start my remarks, I want to say that one of my first jobs lobbying up here as a young lobbyist before I had gray hair was for the County Treasurers Association. So I know what fine people we have back here behind us. And I have to say something about somebody that's back there because she's somebody I met very early. And I think she's been a county attorney, a county treasurer for almost 50 years, if not 50 years. But Nancy Weeks is going to be mad at me, but that's okay. She really didn't want me to testify anyway. So, but
By the way, how many times has Nancy been president of the association?
that I don't know. Yeah. When you think of county treasurers in Kansas, you think of Nancy Weeks. But I am here today. I'm not going to talk about the merits of the bill, except for one section. And we have a policy at the Kansas Contractors Association that anything that impacts the state highway fund, we feel it necessary to come before the legislature and talk to you guys about that impact. And I have to start by going back to 2020 when we passed the IKE plan. And I always want to go back to that to remind legislators that we passed the IKE plan in 2020 without a tax increase, without a fee increase, without any increases to any fees that are currently paid by Kansans for transportation. And I think that's significant because it's the first transportation plan that we've been able to say that about. Now, let's advance 3 years. And we have to be very careful because we didn't include new fees because that was a priority of this legislature not to do that. We have to be very careful when we start changing the fees. Those estimates in 2020 were based on the revenues. KDOT had those estimates. It was based on sales tax. It was based on registration fees. It was based on all of the things that go into transportation funding. And that's not just on the current revenues, but that's the projected revenues over the 10 years. So they include in those projections, those increases. I'm here before you today because this $4 surcharge, and I'm not going to stand here and tell you that obviously it was put in place for a specific reason called a modernization fee. I'm not here to talk about the merits of that, but I'm here to tell you that I have witnessed since 2020, we have, and I applaud the legislature for getting rid of the extraordinary transfers. That is very, when I took over this organization almost 6 years ago, we had about 500 million going out of highway funds. So you guys did away with that altogether last year, you and the governor, and I applaud you for that effort. But I am going to tell you, we're seeing a little bit of creep up of the ordinary transfers. Since 2020, we transferred out about 108 in ordinary transfers. Last year, FY23, 121 million. This year, the proposed governor's budget takes it to 134 million. And the reason I point that out is the increase from last year to this year in the budget is for license tags at Department of Revenue, which is exactly where this $4 originates from for the surcharge, for something totally different. So my point is yes, the modernization project is completed. I have to believe that's the case, but we're still transferring dollars out of the highway fund for other purposes, for things at the Department of Revenue and other places. So I think we have to just be mindful of that. The other piece I'm going to point out is, and KDOT can tell you this, they've looked at bid prices over the last 2 years. Construction costs are up about 45% on bid prices. So when you start factoring in the increased cost of construction, you start looking at, let's just say we do away with this surcharge and we start looking at 20 or 30 million between this and what we're seeing in increases in ordinary transfers. Over the life of this program, you are now starting to talk about 200 to 250 million coming out over the life of a 10-year program. That's real projects. To Representing Melton's point, that is real projects. So I just want, I come to before you today, not to talk about the merits of this bill, but to give you guys an understanding of what can happen as we start to nickel and dime with the State Highway Fund. And like I said, we made a very concentrated effort to pass a plan that didn't require any additional fees. And I think we want to keep to that promise. And the only way we can keep to that promise is if we keep the funding in the State Highway Fund. I'm very fearful at some point we're going to be faced with different realities. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to stand for any questions. Thank you.
Representative Proctor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Please bear with me. I appreciate your testimony. What is the difference between an extraordinary and an ordinary transfer?
So, and I included it in my testimony, and I have some additional information, but basically the easiest way to explain it, there are ordinary transfers that have been coming out of the highway fund for a very long time. Things like highway patrol funding, Department of Revenue, vehicle, motor vehicle stuff. Those types of things have been coming out for many years, roughly to the tune of about $100 million. Extraordinary transfers. There was a period of time during, and they got up to be very high, that we were transferring out for other things. One of them was, I think, capital restoration, bond payments, things like that. So they were things that were not historically paid from the highway fund that we had to pay out of the highway fund because we didn't have the SGF to do it. And so those were eliminated.
Thank you for your patience with me.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, and everybody, on the back of Mr. White's testimony, you're going to need a magnifying glass, to read some of this because it's a big spreadsheet. But on the top, it'll have the extraordinary. On the bottom, it has the ordinary. But to add on to what Mr. White's saying, even within the ordinary transfers, sometimes you're going, I wonder why that's an ordinary transfer, So anyway, please, everybody, take time to review it. It's important information. Representative Ballard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So if I'm looking at this correctly, the question would be how much money would it's on. It's on. I'm just not close enough, right? Sorry about that. I have to eat it, right? Okay. Well, when I'm looking at this, and you talk about what's not in the state highway fund, are you saying that approximately 12 to 13 million would not go to the highway fund?
Correct. Right. That's the estimates that I've been given, that about 12 to 13 million would be eliminated from the highway fund because it's not going to be going there any longer.
And that number is corroborated in the fiscal note too.
In the fiscal note as well. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay. Thank you for your testimony, sir.
Thank you.
We have one one neutral testimony by Scott Heidner, Executive Director of the American Council of Engineering Companies of Kansas, that's written. I encourage you to look at that written testimony. Do we have any other neutrals? Okay, seeing no other neutrals. Committee, I'm going to go ahead and close the hearing on House Bill 2148. As far as the rest of the week, tomorrow I intend to work House Bill 2146. That's the speeding over 30 miles an hour bill. So if you have any amendments, please make sure you've got them ready. Also, I intend to work House Bill 2149, allowing distinctive license plates to be personalized license plates. On Thursday, we'll have a hearing on House Bill 2267, allowing adult care homes to apply for disability special license plates. And we'll have possible action on bills previously heard. I don't intend to do that. I think we're going to start working some of these bills Monday that we've heard lately. So does anybody else have any questions? Anything else for the good of the committee? If not, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.